I know that a lot of you are devastated by the Georgia school shooting, the 30th mass school shooting of 2024. I know many of you are angry and hurt and scared and sad, crushed, devastated. I get all of it. And I know a lot of you want justice. So do I. But it's important that we not confuse justice with bloodlust. There are many people out there who are championing the government, the state's decision to try the young man who did the shooting, Colt Graves, 14 years old, as an adult. That's
Well, so first thing I'll say here is that I don't perceive that as bloodlust, right? Like you phrase like try because kids get tried as an adult. Like that's not like a
Un-
unprecedented thing. Like that
right,
happens sometimes, and
right,
oftentimes, especially for black kids, we get tried we get tried as adults a lot, right?
absolutely.
So the fact that I'm not trying to be racial here, but the fact that it happens to a white kid, it happens, to teenagers. Sometimes they do something particularly heinous and particularly premeditated. You get tried as an adult. So I don't. To me, I don't see like I think his term of like bloodlust. I don't like that.
Is
I
a
think
bit
that's a little too
excessive.
charged. I think that's too charged of a term for trying him. I mean, I don't even know the legal criteria for like when you do try someone as an adult, but I don't think bloodlust matches this situation.
Yeah, not this context. Not when you. I believe he murdered 4 people and injured another like
Like
20
nine or
or
yeah, I don't
something
know.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I agree in that. I agree with that. I think he is. I think he's being a little bit excessive, but I understand. I understand the context. At least, like if he's saying we don't want to, like not in the terms of bloodlust as it relates to this situation, but just in general, we don't want to try children as adults, especially given their development, like their mental development. And it's just like I can understand why he would have this perspective, especially if you're really like if you're thinking that this individual is a child, like and like especially in it can get into a deeper conversation. It's just like, does he have free will? Could he have acted differently?
I mean, none of us have free will, in my opinion. But you know me, man. I respect kids, and by respect, that means I hold them accountable. A
Hold him
lot of people,
accountable.
yeah, they'd be like, "Oh, he's a child." Like that kid, about 14 years old, 15, something like that. Like,
Yeah,
you think me at 14, 15, I didn't know what I was doing? I knew exactly. Now, again, is everybody me? No,
right.
but I knew exactly what I was doing. These kids, they ain't as in my opinion, they're not as stupid as people think they are. Like that's there's something about that kid that made him go and shoot those people. That's
Right.
part of him. That's part of who he is. And to be like, oh, well, he's just a child is like, nah, not to me. Like that's a murderer, is what he is. I mean, he's a 14-year-old.
Murder. Right. And I agree. I think like so like this may be like a complex legal situation, but I think like trying them as an adult relative to making crimes like this more strict for children, I think is a conversation. It's just like in terms of legal complexities, do you want to try a child as an adult, or do you want to make situations like this? Do you want to de-incentivize situations like this in the future by putting harsher punishments on children relative to trying children as an adult? And I
Yeah, and
think
that's another thing too, because who's the type of person that does this, right? Who's the type of
right,
person that does school shooters? Like I remember this is like from I think it was from Breaking Bad or something, but it still applies here, where they were like, "Hey, you're the kid, you go shoot him because if you get
right.
caught,
If you
it
get
doesn't
caught,
really do anything,
right,
right?" So if you have somebody who is, you know, let's say malicious and violent. Now, no, I don't know whether he is or isn't, right? Like, so to me, you have two different types of people who kill. You have people who are emotionally hurt and kind of angry at society or something like that, and it's because they are in this bad emotional place that they go out and do it. And these people, had they have been maybe had more friends, have been better socialized, had a better home life, they wouldn't have been in that situation, right? They're just kind of in this dark place. And those people, they have a positive way out. But then you got other people who are just cold calculated, psychopathic type. I mean, this is like 1% of the population. Now, again, that's a lot of people, but most of those psychopaths aren't, they're not out to hit you necessarily. They're not violent necessarily. But if you do have someone who is willing to be violent, now they say, I'd like to kill a bunch of people when I'm 15, so it's a good time to do it.
Right.
Rather than wait until I'm, 4 years from now, I go to jail for life, right? So if you're dealing with that type of person who's a smart, hostile, malicious individual, you don't want him to go, oh, these soft adults going to try me as a child. Yeah, no, man, I'm taking you out, man. You ain't pulling that one on me.
Yeah, I get that. And that's where it's just like, I'm in a unique situation to where I'm not comfortable with the child being tried as an adult, because adolescence is something that I think should be protected.
I don't think so, man.
It should be treated differently.
Because what's the point? To me, here's the argument for this: their brains aren't developed. They're not smart. It's like, but ain't nobody smart, man. Like, you look at adults, you think adults are smart out here? No.
I mean, no,
right?
they're not.
They're gonna be. Look, if he done now, he's gonna be dumb in 10 years, probably. Right? So, like, what's the difference?
But you don't want to assume
there's
that.
stupid people everywhere. Like, for instance, that's like saying you should have. If you're stupid, you should just go home free, right? Because they're basically saying that kids are stupid. But like, adults are stupid. They gonna be stupid later. They stupid now. They're gonna be stupid later too. They don't get. It ain't like as soon as you hit 18, you become a philosopher.
No,
right?
I mean, I think it's kind of similar to abortion, to where I think most people would agree that you shouldn't abort a baby at 8 months or 9 months because of
right
pain.
As a baby.
It's just like, and I think most people would agree that if a 4-year-old a 4-year-old stabbed 2 people or killed 3 people by chance with a gun, that, or 5-year-old or 6-year-old or 7-year-old, even, like, that we're not wanting to try them as adults.
Well, to me, there's a difference between 4. I give you 4. I give you 4. I'll give you that. But like, you start getting close to 10 and you're doing some heinous, like some premeditated stuff.
No,
I'm like,
no, 10 is way too young. 10 is way too young.
No, it's not. If you don't want some real bad stuff and you planned it, that's you. That ain't a when you're 10 years old, you just go and drown dogs and kill. Like, no, you don't. Like, something wrong with that kid. Something is but that ain't 10-year-old behavior. That's killer behavior.
I don't think we try them as adults. And like, to me, I think most people agree that there's a certain age at which it becomes reasonable. And I think
almost like they just consent for sex too, right? There's different people.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think most people agree that there's a certain age that it becomes reasonable.
For me, the age is low. For me, and I could be biased because that was now I'll admit I'm biased because that was my biggest complaint as a kid, was that everybody, I had no respect. Everybody talking to me like I'm stupid all the time. I'm like, dude, I'm not fucking stupid.
Right. And
but they assume you are as a kid, right? So I'm just like, and then like I'm around kids and here's the thing too, I see character, right? I see character in people, and like you might be like you might socialize a little bit better as you get older. But a lot of times that fundamentals don't change, man. Like the character that you have and all that.
Not at all.
So
not at all.
When I see these bad kids, like, oh, he's just a kid. I'm like, no, that's a bad person. That's a bad person as a kid.
Right.
And that's just it. That's what he is. He's a bad person as a kid. And the thing is, as adults, there's bad people too. And you say, well, kids can change? Adults can change. Sometimes you got an adult that's bad, and then he gets better later on in life. Maybe he was bad through his 30s. And then, by the time he's 60, he cooled down and he's actually a cool person. So it could be the same thing. It was bad when they was a teenager, but then by the time they're 18, but like regardless, to me, like that whole, like, oh, their brains aren't developed. They're not as cognitively. I'm just like, man, there's so many people. There's so much cognitive variation just among adults, right? Like,
absolutely.
I'll take me as a kid over damn near everybody.
I get you. And I would too. I get you. And I'm not. So like, I'm with you in the same vein of putting more responsibility on children and disincentivizing that action. But in the legal context, I'm not for trying them as an adult. I think, like, if for children, I think laws like this as it relates to like premeditated murder and things of that nature should be more extreme. It's just like, and I think it should be more extreme so it disincentivizes and like they're essentially locked away from society and that's what you want to do, but you're not treating them as you would an adult. And I think that's reasonable. I think you still put and like it, and whether or not that you're taking them away from for a lifetime or so, like regardless, I think
Yeah, they're not adults.
right,
To be clear, they're not, right?
right,
14 is not an adult by
mm,
definition. He's not. I don't, if if I had more time to prepare, I would have like then maybe we could have gotten to the bottom of like what's the legal criteria for when you're even able to try someone as an adult, or like what's the best practices for when you do choose to
right,
try someone as an adult to know like does this circumstance fit the other circumstances like historically based on precedents for when you try someone as an adult. So I
right.
get that he's not an adult. So, but if you are going to try someone as an adult, premeditated mass murder seemed like
Absolutely,
a good time to do
absolutely.
it.
And you're right. Like it's I did some research. I did some research as it relates to the issue. Maybe like 2 days ago, just randomly, when I came across a video like this, and I was like, I looked it up, and Georgia starts to try children at the age of 14 uh, for specified crimes. So, like at the age of 14 in the state of Georgia, you can be tried as an adult for a specific crime. So, if he would have been 13, he wouldn't have been eligible to be tried as an adult in the state of Georgia. If he would have been 13 in the state of Ohio, he wouldn't have been eligible to be tried as an adult.
Oh, so he just meets the criteria
Yeah,
for being able to be.
he just met the criteria, and which is to me it's a reasonable argument that actually goes against Mark in this situation because like now like I said it's
Like, what do you want
similar to
to
abortion.
you want to have an exclusion for this guy? Like,
Oh,
even though he meets
right,
the criteria, like for some reason we can't get him, but then we did
right,
get probably some other kids.
right, and just like you said, disproportionately, there's a lot of 14-year-old black kids, and I'm sure that were
They
affected
stole
by
a
that
candy
law.
bar. We trying you as an adult. You're like,
Right. It's like, I'm pretty sure you can find multiple examples of 14-year-olds in Georgia who did not benefit from that. So I understand, and like to his point, maybe you want to be consistent to protect those black 14-year-olds and this white 14-year-old. But and to me, it's a slippery conversation because I understand that children are not adults, and to assess or to put the same value on both, I think is
I'll put a similar value on both, but I think that's because I respect kids more than everybody else.
yeah, and I think that's reasonable. And like to me, again, to me, I think you do both. Like to me, I don't think if child laws allow for this so easily, then I think you make laws like this more stricter, especially in a climate where teens are committing acts like this. It's just like I think that's the first thing that we should do. It's like really the first thing that tells me to do is that like it's scary, just like you said. So now all 13-year-olds I'm gonna be looking at with a side eye.
Free,
Like
they
you know what,
free,
like you
right?
know what
And
I
it's
mean?
like imagine this. Like, imagine like forget modern society. Imagine it's 10,000 years ago. We hunter gatherers. You got this kid walking up with a whatever weapon they had at the time, a spear or something, and he's just killing a bunch of people. I'm like, oh, he's a child. No, I'm taking that dude out. He's
Absolutely.
getting taken out, and
Absolutely.
I ain't gonna be like, oh, I just hurt a child. No, like that's a
Absolutely.
dude that is, he's young, but like he's still, you know, a male and has strength and is capable and is executing literally his
Absolutely.
plan. I'm like,
Absolutely.
yeah, he getting taken out, and I ain't gonna shed a tear about it. Right
Yep.
now, if he was like 4, sure, I ain't gonna get to a 4-year-old, but this 14-year-old dude, like, I ain't got no
Sympathy.
native sympathy. No,
I get
this is it's a technicality. I know he's young, but yeah, he doing stuff like that, man. My sympathy starts to dry up
Yeah.
pretty quick. But maybe that's the bloodlust he's talking about. Maybe I am the example of the bloodlust he's talking about. So unless you got something else to say, we can see. Let him elaborate.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair to let him go.
the thing that people are applauding right now. They're also applauding that the father was arrested and that he's being charged. But the idea of charging a 14-year-old.
So I'm not a fan of charging the father.
I was just about.
I'm not a fan of that. It's like the dad didn't shoot anybody, especially with murder. You're charging him with murder. It's like he didn't the worst you could charge him with is like, I mean, I don't know what the charge is, but like maybe he could have secured the gun better. But here's the thing, and I was just talking to my wife about this. 14-year-olds are not stupid. Like these people are. It's almost like I feel like it's almost like when people compare men and women. It's like, oh, women are so weak. It's like, I mean, they ain't that weak. Like a woman can still take you out if she wanted to. Like, they're weaker than us, but they ain't that weak. So same thing. Children may not be as smart as we are, but they ain't that stupid.
But they're capable too. Absolutely.
Yeah. If I say, hey, Carlos, go to their house as 14-year-old, figure out how to find a gun in there, right? Unless they got like even if it's a key, you might be able to find the key, right? If it's a password, you might be able to, figure out what their password. Look up their, their common, look up their birth date, look at their, maybe their other passwords if you live with them. Like a 14-year-old who lives with you, right? Who's smart, might be able to find out how to get the gun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's like, is that really the dad's fault? It depends on how negligent he was, maybe. Like, is it just laying around anywhere? But like, to be honest, my dad, after talking to him, he was like, he kept the gun out, and it was like, I think it was like top of the refrigerator, something like that. But he told me, he was like, hey, don't mess with guns. You ain't allowed to mess with guns. And he probably knew me well enough to knew I was going to listen, right? And I'm not stupid enough to go around playing with guns anyway. But his kid, maybe ain't the same.
Well, he in this situation in particular, he bought the gun for his son. And
but a lot of parents do that though. A lot of people, especially if they're hunters or something like that,
They do, but like he knew that his son was getting bullied at school.
He did. He did. And because he was reported at FBI and they came out.
Yep. And that's where it's like I'm not for
but still not murder though. It's not murder. It's something. It's something.
Manslaughter. He's getting charged with manslaughter. He's not getting charged with murder.
Is manslaughter?
Yep. He's getting charged with each count too. So each count, so he's getting like 4 counts of manslaughter and 8 counts of cruelty to children or something like that.
See, I don't like all of that. I don't like all of it because he didn't do nothing. Like he didn't control his kid that well, but it was his kid that did it. And it's like, oh, well, since your kid did it, it's your fault because you're the parent. But it's like that's a 14-year-old. Again, 14-year-olds are not stupid, man. Like these people, like now again, maybe he had no restrictions. Maybe it was just like his personal gun laying around. He knew it was his. Everybody knew it was his. He could go out and shoot whenever he wanted to. Yeah, that's negligent, especially given that that your son is questioned. But here's the thing: a lot of parents, and it's easy to judge from a distance, but a lot of parents have a wishful thinking that their kid is an angel or that their kid is good. Like they don't think their kid's gonna be the school shooter, right? Like that's not, you don't think that about your own kid. Now I'm the type I probably would. Not cool. I'm saying I'm biased enough to know if something's wrong, and I'm not, sugarcoat my mind into some, wishful thinking belief that my kid's an angel. I'm not going to do that. But a lot of parents do that. Oh, my kid's an angel. He never. Oh, what? Yep. And then they, found out.
Yeah, I'm not for it on principle. When I found out that the dad was being charged, I didn't like it, and I don't like it just on principle of free will. Like on my principle of free will, I don't believe that we have free will. I don't believe that the kid has a choice. I don't believe the parent has a choice. I don't think there's too much. I mean, there's not anything that a parent can really do to force that action upon the kid. Now, in this situation, only reason why is there some sort of causal relationship, and then I would start to or negligence. Then I would start to be more understanding. In this situation, I think there is a little bit more of a causal relationship with his dad knowing the history of what's been happening to him at school, and then him going out and buying a gun for him to easily have access to, knowing that these situations have been happening. And it's just like, guys, you got a kid. who's
I think
just
it was poor judgment for sure.
right,
Poor
and I think
judgment.
that's negligence. I think that's reasonable negligence, and I think
But it's not murder though. It
right,
is manslaughter. I mean, I guess it
right,
could be because manslaughter is unintentional.
right.
It's arguably manslaughter, but I don't like charging the dad for what the kid did. But again, I don't look at quote unquote children the same way most people do. But again, he's being charged an adult, so wouldn't that set the dad free? I don't know.
Right, right.
But yeah, that is tricky. That's a tricky one there. But yeah, a lot of people though, they don't think their kids gonna do that. They really don't. They don't think their kids that bad, and I think that's just part of the rose-colored glasses that a lot of parents see their children through.
Yeah, and it's just like, is it your fault if you birthed uh Ted Bundy? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, or Dexter
or
from the TV show.
right, or Jeffrey Dahmer. It's just like, is that your fault? Like, is that something that you should be responsible for? And I think not.
No, it's not your fault. And then the only thing they can say is like the gun should have been locked down tighter.
Right.
But again, you a 14-year-old in the house trying to have something that a 14-year-old can't get. 14-year-old can't get to. That's hard.
Right. That is
because 14-year-olds are smart, man. So
I agree with you.
As an adult, is being cheered by too many of y'all, including some of y'all who identify as liberals, who identify as progressives. You can't have it both ways. Don't tell me you're liberal or progressive and you want to try a 14-year-old kid as an adult. Why would you say that, Mark? Well, you don't have a fully developed brain at 14. Shit, you don't have a fully developed brain at 16 or 18. At 14, if you're engaged in a mass school shooting, there are many factors to consider. But what I cannot consider is that you are a fully formed human being that made this decision on your own. If you're 14 years old and you're shooting up schools, who harmed you? What is your history? What is your story of trauma? Now, some of y'all are going to say, well, I know a whole lot of people who got histories and stories of trauma and harm, and they managed not to shoot up a school. I agree. So the question then becomes, how do we respond to it? Well, in the tradition I come out of, the abolitionist tradition, we respond to it by holding people accountable. But accountability doesn't mean a cage. Accountability doesn't mean the death penalty. And accountability doesn't mean treating a 14-year-old as if he were a 34-year-old. And even if you were 34 years old, I would have a conversation about what we do with him. But at 14 years old, there's no doubt that this is a child. You cannot take a child and give them an adult punishment. You cannot take a child and sit them in a cage for 20 and 30 years. The premise of trying to...
I so easily could. You don't understand how easily I can put a child in a cage for 20. You kill how many people? Guns pointed at, and you think I got sympathy for you to be in a cage?
Yeah.
You know who want to be in a cage?
All
those people you killed.
Absolutely.
They'd rather be in a cage.
Absolutely.
At least they'd be alive in that cage, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah, my sympathy it starts to dries up. It dries up pretty quick.
I agree with you. I agree with it. Like my sympathy is I agree with you, but I understand where he's coming from as well. My sympathy, I have less sympathy, of course, especially after you can commit atrocities like that. But I do understand that your brain isn't fully developed, and on his end, if we could do rehabilitation and and even on your end, because I know you would be the same as well, like if you could guarantee that some positive, like number one, that action wouldn't occur in the future, and that he would be a positive, or any individual who did this crime would be a positive variable in society now, then you would like it's time to let them go and let them reintegrate into society. And I think that should be the goal. And I think that's where I think he is, like he's saying, even if he was an adult, I would even be willing to do something different. To where, so like I can understand the bloodlust in terms of us wanting to do punishment relative to disincentivizing the action, and then rehabilitating to like make sure that it doesn't happen again, or can we turn that negative into a positive? And if we can, should we?
I think if we can, we should. And I had this discussion with my parents a long time ago. in general, I'm not a fan of punishment. I
Right.
still want to put people in prison, but it's not because I'm angry at the person. It's because I need to first priority stop them from doing it again.
Right.
Second priority, deter any other people who are
From
thinking
doing
about
it.
doing it from doing it
Right.
again. Right. But that's up to those are two future oriented ideas. It's not about the past. It's not about, oh, you did this thing, so I'm mad. So it's about I gotta stop you from doing it in the future. I gotta stop other people from feeling safe from doing
Right.
this
From doing it.
in the
Absolutely.
future. Right. Now,
Yeah.
if I could know for sure that you weren't going to do it in the future, if I can, and the second one is a harder one. If I could prevent lenience from making other people feel more comfortable from doing it, then I'm
Right.
fine. If he woke up tomorrow with, the mind of an innocent person, he just transformed himself. He's no longer the same person. He will never do anything, and we knew that for sure. And this wouldn't negatively, or this wouldn't be an influence to anyone else who was considering it. I would be fine letting him go free tomorrow after killing that many people. If I knew he was going to be safe, because I don't punish people who are in the right mindset,
Right.
right? Like if you mean well, like for instance, I'm highly vengeful. I am, but I'm also highly forgiving, right? So if you do something, let's say you do something bad to me, right? And then like the next day I see you and you're like, hey man, like I was so wrong for that. Like I these are the reasons why I did it. I was wrong for it. I shouldn't have done it. I've improved myself. I'm never gonna be that way again. I'm sincerely sorry. And they mean it, right? It's not like they're not playing with me. They sincerely mean it. I'm gonna forgive them, man. Like I'm not gonna hold on to that old stuff. But on the other hand, if you have that mentality, let's say you didn't even do anything to me yet, right? You didn't do anything to me, but you planning on doing it, like you want to do it, like that evil is in your mind. Then you're a problem. So to me, it's about your current mind state. Your current mind state, and again, if we could know for sure in the future that you wouldn't do it again, then I'd be fine letting you go. The only reason I couldn't let you go is just for the deterrent factor against other people.
Right.
So I would still lock you up in practice, but principally, I would be, I think trying to get to a place where people are rehabilitated and can get let go is good. I'm not out for vengeance. It's just like I can't, let's say we try him as juvenile and he's out at 20 years old walking on the street. It's like that ain't good. Like I don't want him on the streets.
I get you.
At
I
20
get
years
you.
old.
I get you. And that's where I think that's where I think Mark may be talking about that bloodlust, where I think people don't want rehabilitation. I think, especially in situations like this, I think they want vengeance.
You're right. A lot of them do. Most people don't think
Right.
like me in that regard. But
Right.
this also reminds me. You remember that? I think it was Dave Chappelle joke. Like, how old is 16 really? Remember that?
No, but I like that sounds like something Dave Chappelle would make funny.
Yeah, so it was. I don't remember the joke 100%, so I'm not going to try to like re-say it. But the whole point was like, people talk about 16-year-olds being children and stuff, but like some stuff. I think it was like
Yeah.
R. Kelly was like peeing on a 16-year-old girl. It was like if you're 16, you should be able to figure out whether or not you want to get peed on. That's something you study for the SAT. You taking some of them taking calculus and stuff. You can't figure out you want to get peed on, then I don't know what to tell you.
Riley from Boondocks said, "When I see pee, I move." He said, when she see pee, she stays.
So yeah, it's like he's a child. He's 14. I'm like, yeah, your brain ain't developed, but I really don't. That whole brain development thing, that really does not persuade me one bit. Because again, there's so much cognitive variance, right? You got some people that are brilliant from a young age. You got some people that's dumb 60-year-old, right? Like
Right.
Even if you fully develop, you're gonna be dumb at the end anyway. So, unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's the case, right? Like you'll be done at the end of your development. Other people, they were smart at the beginning of their development, and so like I just really because like I really don't like it always bothered me, man. It's like people have so much sympathy for children, man. I mean, and this arguably being 14, this dude a teenager, right?
Yeah.
He gets somebody pregnant, right? So it's like this dude, there's so much sympathy. And then, like, as soon as they hit, now I think Marc Lamont is different. I think he protects himself. But like for a lot of people, as soon as they hit 18, that sympathy just disappears.
It's gone.
And it's just like they care so much about him And then at age 18, if they can't find a place, they're homeless. But you bum, kick them in the street. I'm
Pull
like,
yourself
what
up by
just
the
happened?
bootstraps. Yep.
Yeah, I'm like 2 years ago, he was a saint, and then now that he's 19,
Yep.
no sympathy whatsoever. And I'm like, come on, man, like, because I got a lot of sympathy for everybody. I got sympathy for adults, I got sympathy for kids, but it ain't that. My sympathy is universal. I got sympathy for everybody. I don't like cut it off at a certain age, but then a lot of people, as soon as they hit 18, their sympathy disappear, and I'm like,
it's gone. It's gone. It is gone. Yeah, I think that's it's an interesting situation, and I don't like how people are vengeful in situations like this, but I understand it. And it's just like, and I can't say that I wouldn't be vengeful in a situation like this, especially if it was one of my family members that were involved. But I understand that vengeance isn't the right solution for this from a societal term.
it ain't that wrong. For societal, yes, we need our
Right.
government to be objective, and
Right. Right.
yes, but as an individual,
Right.
individual justice,
Right.
like, because for instance, if any of those people he was trying to killed him in self-defense, that'd been 100% right.
Absolutely.
It'd been 100% right.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's like, if I'm there, now the police can't do that, right? The police can't take matters in their own hands. They can't take justice in their own hands, straight kill people, right? Because again, our system needs to be fair. But like, if I'm a member of that school and I had the opportunity to take him out,
take him out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Easy. He's gone easy, man. And again, I would not shed a tear.
No.
Safe and comfortable.
Absolutely. And if somebody did it, they would have been applauded. They would.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, you killed a child. It's like, okay, man.
But yeah, that wouldn't be the conversation at all. They would be a hero,
right?
And that's interesting.
But our system can't be that way, right? Our system does have to be objective. Right. We don't want our system to be that emotional, but from like the gut, morality, the human element. Yeah, I wouldn't feel a moral dilemma. And like I said, I think there's too much sympathy for children and there's not enough sympathy for adults. And for some reason, as soon as you're 18, it just disappears. It goes from like 100 to 0. I'm like, come on.
They go through that adult portal and that's it.
You're on your own now. Good luck.
Yeah, I get that. I'm right there with you. I think that's not consistent and it's unfortunate. And especially like, that's one thing I will say in the Black community. That's one thing that we do. I mean, as soon as you hit 18, it's just like, that's one thing. It's just like, they are, in the Black community in particular, you are an adult. And it's time to get out the house and it's time to go find your own. It's just like, I'm not with that.
Like, we've been waiting to get you out of here.
Yeah. It's just like, at 18 years old, it's just this portal didn't happen, this magical change that occurred. Now you have all of the resources and tools to do everything in life that you need to do. So it's time to go do it. So I'm right there with you. I agree 1,000%.
Someone as an adult is that somehow the crime is so grave that it warrants not giving you a childlike penalty. But the problem is they are a child, so they didn't make an adult decision. They didn't make an adult choice. They didn't have the capacity to make an adult choice. I want to know, what is it about?
I'm sorry to keep pausing, but I hated that mentality, man. You don't have the capacity to think like an adult. Somebody tell me that is 14. It's like, dude, who you talking to? You probably ain't got the capacity to think like an adult. Talking to me, yeah, man. That kind of condescension, man. The level of, because imagine you talk to anybody else like that. Imagine you said, well, a woman doesn't have the capacity to think like him. What? Right? You say that to a child. Oh, a Black person doesn't have the capacity to think. What? Right? But when you say it about children, it's okay. Oh, children must be stupid. What? Man, get out of here. I hated that, man. As a child, I hated that condescension from adults who just walk around assuming that they superior. Like, nah, man, don't come to me with that superiority BS. Show some respect. Some respect.
I don't like it on principle that murder is an adult action. I'm like, that's not an adult act. And that's where, like, to me, on principle, I think our laws for children should become more strict as it relates to murder, especially around again, that gives a 13-year-old and 12-year-old, 11-year-old, 10-year-old reasonable, capable agents the license to just go out there and kill.
Right, because
Double
they ain't. I'm telling you, they ain't stupid, man. And if you
not
got
at
a kid
all.
who wants to kill,
Right.
and he's smart, it's like, dude, I'm 13.
Absolutely.
Free,
This
man.
is the time.
I'm
Yep.
especially if they watching this show,
Yep.
and then like legislation passes something like, oh well, we know at 13 you can't charge her for murder. It's like, all right,
Yep.
boom,
It's like,
I got plans this weekend,
yeah.
right? It's like, nah, man, no,
Yeah.
indeed, man.
Yeah, I don't like that on principle. I don't like that on principle.
This kid's like the kid was online making threats. The kid was online talking about shooting up a school. There were cries for help. There were flags. The school knew. The sheriff's office was warned. The FBI was involved. The parents were involved. There's a whole village of people who were wildly irresponsible, who absolutely did not handle this young man.
I don't like that either, because now you're blaming the whole society
Right.
because the kid did something. It's like, so here's the thing, like I think everybody, from what I understand, they did their job about as well as they could. He made the threats on Discord, I think. Somebody on Discord reported, say, hey, there's a crazy dude here, might shoot up a school. Reported to the FBI. First off, kudos to that person, whoever did that.
Right.
Because a lot of people just, talk crap on and nobody does anything. But somebody took initiative. So thank you to whomever did that. They told the FBI. FBI figured out the IP address, figured out where that computer came from, sent the information to the local authorities. Local authorities send out police officers to the house to talk to the people, and they inform the school district saying, hey, this kid, saying some questionable stuff online, but the thing is, you can't, like, what are you going to do? Lock the kid up because he said something on Discord?
Get
A
him
lot
out
of
of there,
people say random things, but you can't really, though. You can't do that. So I feel like, he told the father, like, if anything, maybe the father could have been more careful given all of that. So if anybody lands on the father. But like, to be like, oh, well, everybody dropped the ball. School just like, what are you supposed to do? Kick him out of school? You can't kick him out of school. He has to be at school. You can't arrest him before he does a crime. Like there's not much they could have done better. Like, it's not like everybody was incompetent. And to me, it's like the kid just did a crime. And that's about it. I don't know what they could have done better. Besides the father, maybe.
I think if you get, this is where, again, like, I'm with you on children having more responsibility. And this is where I would be more strict with children. And this is where it's just like, if, to me, knowing that all of these entities were involved before that happened, I think that does show a failure of our system. It's just like, if that many entities were involved before any
They were.
incident,
But what can you do, though? What can you do?
I mean, if you have a threat like that, you remove him from school. And to me, in that situation, what a district should do is especially if you get that many entities involved and you have a threat like this, what they should do is they should say, we're going to remove him from school because of the threat. And then we're going to still, like, the district should still be responsible for teaching him, whether or not they send like one teacher out to teach him lessons, or maybe they give him online school. Yeah, but I think you remove him from school for the threat alone until you can confirm, and then, like, you just, even for the threat, and once you have proof of it, even for the threat, there's just like a guaranteed 90-day period of just investigation, and because of that period, you gotta be homeschooled. Like,
Well,
you
I mean,
gotta be away
this
from
is beginning
children.
of the school year, right? So I think that, like, this is like later on. Like, this is like the next school year or whatever. I don't know when he was, but like, it wasn't like recently. It was like earlier, if I understand correctly, that they had this tip. I mean, yeah, they have to be schooled. I mean, yeah, you can kick him out and say you have to be homeschooled or whatever, maybe. But the kid denied it. He denied posting it, but it was him. It sounds like. But to me, like, it sounds like they did that because you can't arrest him before they do a crime,
Right.
especially for somebody said in the chat room, because like, I'm sure there's plenty of cases where, like, in jokes or whatever, I'll kill you, even if it's just a video game, I'll kill you in a video game, right? There's a bunch of things that, now I just didn't say I'm gonna shoot the school, right? That's a whole
Right.
different
I
thing.
mean, right.
But yeah, like, to me, like, if he didn't do a crime, I really, it's hard for me to blame the authorities. I understand what you're saying about, like, hey, let's take him out. Anybody who's even talked about shooting up a school is ineligible to go to school.
Right.
I can understand that. But like, if that's not currently a law, then there's nothing they could do, right? So if anything, that may be, the legislation may need to pass
Right.
more strict stuff.
Right.
But like, I don't know I can't say that anybody in particular dropped the ball. Maybe we could say the law should be more strict against
Right.
threats like this. Maybe.
Right. That would be my approach.
Yeah.
And with care. They all got blood on their hands, but only one person is going to jail for it, and only one person is potentially being tried as an adult.
Yeah, no, I don't like that. They all got blood on their hands. That's not what you mean. Like everybody got the whole school district. Like, are you basically equating his murder with everybody who is involved in Newham?
That's wrong. Yeah, that's excessive.
Yeah, talking about people's brain being developed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hated that as a kid, man. I really did.
Who's a kid, and that is this young man, Colt Gray. I don't got no tears for Colt Gray. This isn't me caping for a white boy. This ain't me caping for a killer. This ain't me caping for a monster. I don't lose an ounce of sleep at night thinking about what might happen to this kid who just killed 4 people, 2 students, 2 teachers, and injured 9 others. But even though I'm angry at him, and even though I have no regard for him at the personal level, I still believe in justice. And I still believe in fairness. And I still believe that our system is only as good as those moments of weakness, as those moments of contradiction, as those moments of difficulty. It's easy to treat people well when there's nothing at stake. It's easy to make the tough decision when it's somebody you don't care about in terms of the victim, right? But when it's your people, or when the story's so tragic it makes you cry, what do you say about the shooter then?
Now, I respect his principles, right? I respect that. If he's saying, like, look, I never want to try children as an adult, and even though this is heinous, and even though I don't like him, even though I don't like him personally, I'm going to stick to these principles. I respect that.
That's a principled position. I respect it. I respect it as well.
Now, I'm not saying that we should give him a pat on the head and send him home. It sounds like he needs mental health treatment. It sounds like he might need to be pulled out of.
I don't like that whole mental health thing either. I feel like every time somebody like does a bad thing, they be like, "Oh, it's mental health." Like sometimes you got bad people. Like sometimes
that's true.
It ain't a mental. It ain't like, oh, he's schizophrenic or whatever. Sometimes you just a low character, low quality human being, and that just is what it is. Like not every bad person is sick. You just bad.
I mean, I think there should be an assessment though, like at minimum, like you know what I mean. Like
we're doing an assessment, but I feel like everybody assumes, oh, well, because he did this, it must be mental health. Like, how about he just might just be bad, you know, like angry or whatever, right? Now, or he could just be psychopathic. And if he's psychopathic, I mean, maybe that's a mental health thing. Now it's hard to fix that. Psychopathy, from what I hear, but yeah, I don't like because whenever you do that, I feel like it justifies a whole lot. It's like, oh, it's like writing it off, like for instance, like another thing I don't like, a lot of boys, and it may be girls too, but a lot of boys, like when they have trouble in school, go, oh, well, he must be ADHD, he had a hard time focusing.
Yeah, it's like, no, I don't like that.
Yeah, so now you just making an excuse for him not focusing because of ADHD. Like maybe he does have it, but like by default, I'm like, get your act together.
Right.
I'm not about to. Anytime you run into a problem, I got to blame something else. Oh, it must be mental health. Oh, it must be ADHD. Oh, it must be. How about it must be you? How about that? How about?
Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, even for number one, African American children are the most that are disproportionately affected by ADHD diagnosis. But like, it's one of the only things where doctors are not observing the patient to diagnose that. They're going off of the parents saying, right. The parents saying he runs around too much, he has too much energy, he has problems focusing in school, and they're not like, the doctors aren't getting really any opportunity. They're just going off of what the parents are saying or what the teachers are saying. And that's just like, I don't like that. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Society and given care and treatment and investment. It also sounds like he needs mechanisms of accountability. I'm not just saying give him a hug either. What does accountability look like outside of a carceral logic? What does accountability look like when we try to actually fix the problem instead of taking a 16-year-old boy who's clearly been traumatized, clearly been harmed, probably been abused, probably been radicalized with racist ideologies, probably had all this stuff happen.
I don't like him just making up all that.
Yeah, that's a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, like, why you just make up everything? Just like you just gave him the free pass again, just assuming that it must be something else instead of him.
Yeah, that's not okay.
And him, and we're going to ignore all of that and just stick him in a cage for the rest of his life or kill him. How is that an answer? And here's the thing. Here's why I say that. I said the same thing about Dylan Roof, another monster who killed a bunch of people. If we allow the state to treat them this way, which is 1 in a million, what do you think they're going to do to your cousin? What do you think they're going to do to your brother?
They already been doing it.
What do you think they're going to do to the vulnerable? You see, when you cheer on the death penalty or an adult sentence for a 14-year-old kid now, what do you think they're going to do to black boys and girls who they already think are grown? They don't even think black people can have or be children. They see us as short adults, not as children. They see us as people who are already.
He said, we can't even be children. We come out, boom, 18 years old.
He's right. It could be justice.
I don't like the slippery slope argument. I feel like a lot of slippery slope arguments are like that. They'll be like, well, I know this is reasonable here, but what if it eventually gets unreasonable? It's like, then we'll deal with that then. You know?
Right. Let's deal with it in its proper context.
Right.
I'm right there with you. I hate when people put the extreme case on your average and then try to assume the extreme case in every instance. I'm like, that's not what you should do. We should deal with this context, and then once something crazier comes or that's more extreme, then we'll deal with that context. Like,
yeah.
Already grown. They don't give us the capacity to be innocent or to make mistakes or to be undeveloped. But the fact is, again, the undeveloped brain of a teenager is for everybody. So if you cheer on this 14-year-old boy being tried as an adult, just wait until something happens to somebody you care about. For every white boy they do this to, it's going to be 1,000 Negroes they do this to. And it won't be fair then, just as it's not fair now. So even if you don't care about white people, even if you don't care about this young man, even if you want vengeance against this young man, be practical and pragmatic and say it's going to come out of the flesh of us. We got to be mature, even in a moment of pain, especially in a moment of pain and tragedy. We got to be able to be mature ethically, mature morally, mature politically to make a different choice, y'all. Abolition ain't easy. It ain't all flowers and roses and hugs. Sometimes you got to make tough choices, but you also need to demonstrate a moral consistency of those choices.
So yeah, we can close it there.
Yeah, I think he is. I think we got most of it out in the beginning, and I think he's. I respect his principles. I don't agree with the outcome.
Yeah, exactly. I like his principles. I like hey, even when it's hard. Now, I thought it was weird. He called us Negroes there. I'm like, what we in 2024? They talking about abolition? What are you talking about?
No, I don't know much about that. Yeah, I got to see what he's talking about when he's saying he's an abolitionist and all. I don't know too much.
Yeah,
I know Mark is an interesting dude. Right.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm like, ain't abolitionists? Ain't that like 100 years ago? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I have no idea. But I respect his principles. I respect that like your morals and principles are tested in the extremes.
Right.
And like you want to be consistent in that times, and even if it's against like your group or if it's it's an extreme situation, I like those principles. I'm right there with him. In that regard, I don't agree with the outcome as it relates to Georgia and their state law. And I think like again, I think it's similar to abortion, to where I think most people would agree that in age is reasonable. Like I think there is an age at which we think that teenagers should reasonably be tried as adults, and I think 14 is relatively close. I think you're going to be getting around that age, so like number one, teenager to like puberty, and so like it's a thin line, but I don't agree with his outcome, but I do respect principle.
I second that.
Like that is and like his heart, I think, is in the right place, and that's where I can respect it. It's just like now people do bad things with their heart, have a good intention. I think religion is an example of one, but I think he is. I don't think he's in a unreasonable place, even as it relates to rehabilitation. I think he was more so focusing on that relative to punishment, and I
Yeah,
think
I like that he has the principles. I just disagree with him in terms of like I feel like
right,
he just assumes that because the kid is 14, it must be everybody else's fault. It must have been society's fault.
right, yeah,
He probably had this happen. He probably had that happen. Like now you just making stuff up. You just
yeah,
straight cold making stuff up to just give him, to write it off as like okay because. But again, I can't criticize it fundamentally because there's a certain age that even both of us would agree, right? If the kid was
absolutely,
3, then yeah, we probably write it off too, right? But for him, he goes all the way up to I don't know 18. But
yeah,
yeah, for me, I start treating him as a dog pretty way
pretty
younger
early.
than most people would. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing. I'm like, man. I think 10 is a little too close. I think, but there's a number. That's like there's a number. I think 10 is a little too early. Personally, I think 13 between 12 and 15. I think is a reasonable area.
And
That's my personal.
depending on the crime you do as well, it's just different.
Right,
Like
right.
if he just went and stole a bag of chips, don't try him as an adult. That's fine, whatever. But like you start doing some heinous premeditated stuff, and at a certain point, I gotta lock you up, and I gotta hit you with the book at a certain point.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Just like you said, I don't think everything is mental health. Just like you said, some people are just bad people. Some people just genuinely want to do bad things, and those are the people that deserve to get hit with that book.
Yeah, and those people are rare. Honestly, I would guess he's probably more of the hurt and angry type. Maybe life, didn't have many friends. Bad home life. Maybe could have been better. I think most people are like that. I don't know in person, but I think most people that do stuff like this, they're not psychopaths. They're not like pure evil.
Right,
These people could have been good members of society had they been in a different context, a different
right.
environment. So this is, I think most people are like that. I would assume that he might be too. Of course, need to hear his case and put it, let him go to court. But I think most of them can be. There's light that could have been reached within him. So most people aren't like that. Really dark, pure evil. Psychopathic maybe angle. But still, at a certain point, you do too much bad stuff. I can't just say, oh well,
Let us-
he's 15, so let him out in 3 years. No.
No,
Which
I'm
guess
right there
what?
with you.
Then he's gonna be on the streets.
Right,
Right.
right. Like yeah, as soon as he gets out, no skills, no understanding of how to integrate back into society. It's just like as soon as the society has moved on 20, 30 years, it's just like yeah, he'll come out and be on this unless he was doing a
And
reason.
one final thing I remember, there was another white kid. One final thing I want to say here: there was another white kid who was a psychopath, and it was I think Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan interviewed him when he was young. He basically was mad at his mom, and so like he basically convinced the babysitter to go home early, and then stabbed his little baby sister. She was probably like, I don't know, like
Wow.
4 or 3 or something. He's probably like 8 or something. Had his baby sister go home early, stabbed his sister to death, called the cops, acting like he without a good plan for to even maybe he was 8. He didn't have a good plan to say why he just killed her. He acted like he was the victim too. They were like, but you only one here. So yeah, he stabbed. But the reason he killed her was because he wanted to get back at his mom. He's like, he's the worst thing I could take both of your children away from you by killing my little sister, and then now I'm a monster, and that's why he did it. And I remember he was interviewing this guy. He's probably now he's been in prison. He's probably like almost 30 or something like that, and he's
Wow.
trying to like get back on the street. And it's like this dude. If you look at him, like this dude is like, he is a psychopath. This dude is built different. I'm like, no, I don't want him out here. Nope,
Yeah,
keep him in here.
I gotta see that. I gotta see that interview because that sounds interesting. Because just like you said, as it relates to
Yeah, he was like
psychopaths and
he was like 8 years
sociopaths,
old. He was real young. Like
yeah,
he knifed his sister to death, premeditated, planned everything.
yeah, that's different.
Yeah, this dude was brutal.
That's different. I'm interested. If you can send me that, I'm interested in taking a look. But that's just interesting.
Yeah, I'll find that, send it to you.